We've been having another little look at the gas locker just now, and the weather is not good enough to be cutting wood for that. It keeps raining. I'm hiding under the tailgate, and I've turned my attention to having a look at the ramp and what we're going to do to remove it, because we're now getting to the point where, rather than it being useful, which it's been very useful until now, it's going to be getting in the way of constructing the gas locker, because the gas locker is going to be just here and this handle is in the way. This is the handle that is part of the release mechanism. Now, ideally we want to be able to still open this, the flap that's going to be remaining once we've cut the ramp off. So I've just removed the tailgate latch, which allows the bumper to be removed at the top. It's held by two screws underneath. Those screws are absolutely rusted in place, so I'm just going to set about drilling those out so that we can get this cover off and see what we've got underneath. It has taken a long time to drill out that screw there, and where's my finger? This one here made a little bit of a mess of getting that one out. It was at an awkward angle, and now hopefully we can just lift that off. Yay! So that is what is behind the middle section of bumper. Clearly, if we removed the ramp in its entirety, we would then have a hole, not just in the bumper but in the back of the vehicle. There'd just be a gap. So what we're going to do is be cutting at about that level all the way across to there. And the reason I've just taken that off is because we need to do something to remove this mechanism, and we think what we're going to do is we're going to put a bolt mechanism further up.
And here's Gail just undoing the last bit of the mounting mechanism, the locking mechanism for the ramp.
Been a little bit of a battle with corroded screws and corroded bolts, but hopefully that's all free.
Excellent.
And I hope we don't want to put it back together, because I don't know where all those bits went. The time has come. We've marked up the initial cut lines of the sides of the ramp, and we're about to start cutting it off. That's the first two cut lines, nicely down in between the lines that I drew. Now we're going to draw across the middle to give me another straight line that I hope to be able to follow. Mick has just very wisely said we'd best just support the end that we're cutting off so that it doesn't start twisting as I cut. That's the cut line marked. We've now learnt that the construction of the ramp is box sectioned aluminium. The angle grinder is going through it like butter, but the blade I had on wasn't deep enough, it wasn't big enough to go through both layers. So I've just changed the blade, and hopefully we'll soon be through that. The bit that just put up resistance at the end there was a metal plate that is attached to the bolting point on the back, and that really is the only bit that proved a little bit tricky to get through. That's the ramp in its cut off state, but without the bumper put back on. and that's the line that has been cut. We're going to finish that off by putting a piece of wood across the top. Something probably like that. That'll bring it up to the same height as the rest of the floor. And then we'll put some little pieces in there again to bring that edge up to the height of the rest of the floor. Before we pop the bumper back on, I'll just show Mick's a little bit of handiwork here. These two pieces of steel showed a little bit of rust staining and a bit of surface rust, so Mick's just given those a couple of coats of Hammerite, and we've just rigged up a couple of push-pull mechanisms so that we can still use the original release bolts for that flap. There's the bumper back in place. Obviously it's always going to be a little bit odd having that section in the middle that is inset. And the only way we could get around that would be to buy a whole new bumper, and that is not going to happen. What I've seen on quite a few Peugeot Expert X-wheelchair accessible vehicles on the roads is that they don't have that section of bumper at all, and what has happened is they've removed the ramp, which is in our case at an angle, which I'll go inside and show in a moment, and across the line of the back of the original vehicle they've affixed a metal plate. Even though having the ramp there at the angle does take up some room inside, for our purposes it's not really a problem. So this is looking down on the ramp from inside. So the disadvantage of our approach is that we've lost this depth. If we were to put a plate across where the original rear of the vehicle was, then we could have just run our new floor right up to that and gained those extra few inches. Because we're going to have the toilet sitting here, it doesn't really make any difference to us. We wouldn't be partying in that little bit of space that we're losing, so there's no great reason for us to have done anything other than what we have and just cut that off. We are incidentally now not sure whether we are going to put this piece of wood across here as we described earlier in this video. The little pieces on the end are glued in because there's a good reason for those. We're not sure whether to put a wider piece of wood that then shapes around the tailgate latch, or whether to just get a bit of seal that will, in black, that will cover the edge of the ramp. I think I'm probably tending towards the black seal. We will see. But in the meantime, I think that's good enough to say the job of removing the ramp has a tick next to it.